Hey, what's up guys, I'm Xteria, and we're finally in patch 14.24, where we're able to play 6 cost units. And for those that don't know anything about 6 cost units, you can check out this video here in the description down below, where it's everything you need to know about 6 cost units. With that being said, now we're finally in a meta where we're playing mostly 2 cost rerolls. So almost out of 8 every 10 games, you kinda wanna play these kinda comps. And this comp that I'm going to tell you about is the Shredding Machine Nocturne. This comp is so powerful because you're able to play both magic damage and physical damage. In order to understand how to play this comp, we need to understand on how to build this comp. And our main unit we want to carry on is Nocturne, and his best item hands down is QSS. This item gives him attack speed, gives him a lot of magic resist, and it allows him to not get CC'd while he's auto attacking. As he's auto attacking, we need some sort of lifesteal item, and Bloodthirster is one of the best. In order to compensate the lack of damage, IE would be the best suitable item for him. Technically, yes, Titans would be good, but you want Nocturne to kind of like one-shot everything, and he's kind of tanky already with Automata, so having IE would be the best choice. And you can flex around with these items that I mentioned before, like the Titans, or if you need a healing item that you cannot build Bloodthirster, Hawk is fine. As okay substitute for QSS would be Edge and Knight, but these items are meant to build at the beginning. If you cannot build these in the beginning, then you just transfer these items to a different unit later and build these later in the game. And best artifact items hands down is the one that gives him range. This is what makes him become like a blender or a shredding machine, which is rapid fire cannon, one of his best artifacts. If you get this augment, you gain like +2 placements. Fish and Bones is pretty similar to rapid fire cannon, but the difference is your auto attacks are kind of RNG, and on top of that, the stats on this item is a little bit better than rapid fire cannon, but rapid fire cannon is just better overall. And Sniper's Focus is an okay item on Nocturne because it gives him range, but the damage is kind of lacking there. And then good close range items overall would be like Prowler's Claw or Trench Cloak that have multiple Nocturnes. Your secondary carry most of the time would be Twisted Fate. The reason why is because he's able to hold debuff items such as anti-heal like Murloc and Static Shiv. Static Shiv is very important for this board because when you have Automata in, Automata does magic damage, so that's what makes Nocturne do both physical and magical damage because of his synergy, and his ability does physical damage. So Static Shiv would be very helpful for this board. And if you want Twisted Fate to cast more, having a Spirit Sojourn is okay. You can flex around these items, like if you want damage items on TF, you could put Archangel Staff or Jewel Gauntlet. Death Cap is okay, but I would say Jewel Gauntlet is better on TF. If you can't build a Spirit Sojourn, a Depth of Helm is fine for mana item. And then if you cannot build Murloc, you can always build a red buff for anti-heal. Even though it's harder to build, it's still a useful item. Good artifacts would be like the AP items, like DFG and Zonia's. Another thing to note here is because he has one CC ability, technically Horizon Focus will be okay if you have this item for whatever reason. Just throw it on TF. Your main tank is going to be Blitzcrank, and you just put respectable tank items on him. The main thing to note is if you don't have Static Shiv, always put Onyx Spark on Blitzcrank because you need that magic resist shred. And then you have decent artifact tanks here, and the thing to note here with Unending Despair, this item allows him to do extra damage because he gains a shield, and whichever unit has a shield and it pops, they do damage with this item. The best emblems you could pick up here would be Automata. In order to build this, you need a spat and a cloak. If you have a pan instead, you can reforge it into a spat. Or the other good emblem you can build would be Quickstriker as well. Same thing though. If you have a pan, you could build a pan with a bow to build Quickstriker. But if you have a spat instead, you could reforge it into a pan. So same logic with the Automata emblem, but it's vice versa. The best first item slams we can do is QSS. Apparently in the TFT opening, which is a LAN tournament, this item is actually really strong to start with. We're just gonna go with that, and it's Nocturne's best item. If you have this item on Nocturne, it's really good to start with. Bloodthirster is also really strong because it gives you lifesteal and some damage. If you have the components, building a Titans isn't too bad to start with, but you don't really need it later in the game. But it's not really a bad item though in the beginning. Hajj is okay for healing item if you need this first item slam, because if you can't build Bloodthirster, you can build Hajj, is fine. Or another alternative item you can rush maybe is Thief's Gloves. I wouldn't really recommend it too much since you need the glove for QSS or even Hodges just in case if you need them. But if you want to win streak really hard, these gloves is not bad. And speaking of win streaking, Sunfire is probably like one of the best early game slam items because it gives you some sort of tank, and you also do a lot of damage with this item. If you have double belt, just slam a Warmongs. It's always good to have. And the same thing with the Warmongs reasoning. If you have double cloak, you can just slam Declaw. It's okay as well. Even though you need the cloaks for your Bloodthirster or QSS, sometimes you might not have the components, so you can just slam the cloak. It's fine. Maybe later in the meta, cloak will be contested, but as of right now, from what I'm seeing, it's not too contested at the moment. But that can change later down the line. And Static Shiv is a really good first item slam since you're doing mostly magic damage. And the best opener we could have is Nocturne, with his best item to have on him is QSS. If you have this setup, you're probably gonna be top 40 for most of the rounds. And then you have your main tank for the beginning, which is a Mumu, and just put the tank item on him. Unless you get a Darius 2 first, then you can put the tank item on him instead. And then the other Quickstriker unit would be Akali for Nocturne. This is like the best startup because you get Automata with Nocturne and a Mumu. So this is a really strong opening. When you hit level 6, you're going to be rerolling for Nocturne 3, and the units you want to play at level 6 would be Nocturne, Blitzcrank, Amumu, Akali, Twisted Fate, and Kog'Maw. Once you get an Abessa, you could trade out the Kog'Maw if you want to have 4 Quickstriker to improve your board more, or just hit level 7, just throw out the Abessa so you can power your board, and you can still roll for Nocturne 3 there. The default board at level 8 would be the 6 units I listed earlier with Ambessa, and a Mundo for a good +1. The good thing to know here is if you have a Mundo, you can switch him out for a Mordekaiser instead. But if you have a Mundo 2 already, no need to switch it out unless you get Mordekaiser 2. If you have a Quickstriker Emblem, just throw in a Kog'Maw, and then you take out a Kali because a Kali is kind of useless at the moment since they kind of nerfed her for level 3, so you don't reroll her. So you can just throw out a good +1 unit, any unit that you can find, maybe a 6-cost unit, or maybe a good value 4-cost unit. If you have Automata Emblem, then you just throw it on Bessa because she's actually a really good unit for it, or you can throw it on TF, either one's fine, and find a Malzahar instead of a Mundo at level 8. And when you hit level 9, you can throw in Mordekaiser if you want, or any good value unit that's a 6-cost. Now for the team builder segment, so you can visually see the positioning and certain strats you can do to win rounds early. The basic opener would be to have a Nocturne, and we could represent his items as QSS, because for other openers. Next to him would be an Amumu because you get Automata in, and you also get a really good tank unit, and we could represent tank items with Warmongs. The best unit to pair of Nocturne would be a Kali because they both get Quickstriker in, and the best other tank you can throw in would be Darius. Technically he's not really a tank, but since he's a Watcher unit with a Mumu, you get that synergy in. This is a really strong opener at level 4, and you actually can do a lot of damage with this because Akali, how she works is when she throws her ability, it marks people. So this is the reason why you kind of want to position it like this, where you have Nocturne and Darius next to her, so they can both dish out the damage to people that she marks. So this is a pretty good strat to do, and you can do vice versa on the other side of positioning too. Either one's fine. As long as you have Nocturne and Darius next to Akali, you do a lot of damage for that cheese play with her mark. If you don't know what I mean by her mark, it says it right here where when she throws a shuriken, she leaves a mark on the enemies that allows you to do 15% more extra damage to them. And this works on your other units to do that damage as well. And then over time, you can just throw out value units like, for example, if you find Kog'Maw early, that's good. Or even a Blitzcrank, that's also really good as well. So any Automata unit. If not, you can throw in like another Watcher unit, like having a Vander in. Or you could throw out units such as Draven to get that Conquer in with Darius so you can have extra damage on the board. So just find value units to progress with this board so you can hit level 6 to roll for Nocturne 3. Another opener we can do is if we cannot find Nocturne, you can have a Akali as the item holder here. And another really okay opener is because you have an Akali start, you kind of need to build on Rebels, so you can have Aurelia instead and have Aurelia as the tank item holder. Look for Aurel because it gives you a Sentinel with Aurelia, and we can throw in a Vex. So this is a pretty okay opener as well because we get 3 Rebel, 2 Sentinel, and 2 Visionary. And then later on, we want to magnetic remove the Akali item to Nocturne later. And then over time, you can find maybe Nocturne at level 5 maybe. I would suggest to have the Nocturne items on Akali still because the Rebel synergy, and you can position like this, and this would be fine. Another opener we could do, which is a really good cheap version, which is to have Trundle as the item holder for Nocturne. Backline damage, which is Maddie, and to combine them all, it would be to have a Stab. So you get really good synergies here, and you just put the tank items on Stab, and you have 2 Bruiser and 2 Enforcer. You can mix and match the other 2, which is like, for example, if you want Scrap in, you could throw out a Powder, or if you get lucky enough, you could throw in early game Gangplank, either one's fine, or you could throw in 2 Snipers. And over time, you want to find like your Nocturne units, so maybe you might find Nocturne later at level 5, or even an Amumu at level 5, either one is fine, until you hit level 6 to roll down for your board. Another great opener we could do here would be the Violet opener, and this is probably like one of the most powerful openers, where you have the Nocturne items on Violet instead of Trundle. You throw in Draven to get that Pit Fighter in, throw in Darius so you can get Conquer for that extra gold on the board, and that's basically about it. Whichever unit you hit level 2 here, Amumu or Darius, you put the tank items on them, and this is it for the board, and it's very basic, very easy, and very powerful. Over time, like the other board, you could just look for your core units like Nocturne at level 5, and then when you hit level 6, just play around Nocturne, and then roll for everything else. And then once we hit level 6, we want to transition into an Akali too. Nocturne with his items on him, take out Violet. Hopefully we can find a Blitzcrank along the way, and a Kog'Maw, and a TF. So these are the units that you kind of want to find over time, and you transfer the tank items to Blitzcrank. If you don't have any of the other units here like Kog'Maw, Twisted Fate, or Blitzcrank, just hold out the 2 tank units you have. Like for example, if you have Darius in still, you can keep him in. Or say for example, you have your Trundle and Stab still, you can keep them in over the other 3-cost units that you cannot find over time. Just sell them and then put the 3-cost units in, and you're good to go. And then once you hit Nocturne level 3, you want to hit higher levels. On top of that, a good thing to know here is don't 3-star Akali. They nerfed her this patch, so she's actually really weak as a 3-star now, so there's no need to do it unless you're playing Rebel in the board, like 5 or 7 Rebel, then she'll be strong. But for the most part, don't do it if you're playing Quickstriker. If you still don't have Nocturne 3 yet, but you find an Ambessa before you even hit the Nocturne, hit level 7 and throw out Ambessa so you get 4 Quickstriker, because once you get 4 Quickstriker in, it powers up your board a lot. Don't be afraid to hit 7 as fast as you can, and you can 3-star Nocturne later at level 7 because the statistics for 2 costs is kind of the same at 7. And this also allows you to 3-star your Blitzcrank and even TF if you want to. So don't be afraid to hit level 7 if you find Ambessa early. But before you do it though, hit Nocturne level 2 first and then hit level 7, because if you don't have Nocturne 2, you're not going to survive long enough. And then once you hit Nocturne 3 at any point in the game, hit level 8 as fast as you can so you can throw the rest of the units in, like for example Ambessa. And for the base board is, you want to throw out a Mundo. The reason why is because you get Dominator in, and he's a good +1 unit to have level 2. Unless you high roll a Mordekaiser or for whatever reason, then you can put Mordekaiser in and put him somewhere where he doesn't die. And this board is also really good as well. Unless you high roll, for example, like a Mel or something, then you can use Mel over the Mordekaiser or even a Victor. Work is like a maybe unless you have like some sort of healing item like BT on him, then it's good to have, because Work is very, very in need of items. If you don't have items on him, it's kind of not worth it to have him. The other two I would prefer is just Victor or having a Mel in. Now, if you have emblems, say for example we have Quickstriker in, then we throw it on Kog'Maw, just take out Akali, and we have Mundo instead. If you have a +1 unit like Mel, for example, is very good, or even Victor, or even Work, even with no items here, is still fine, because if you have Mundo too, then it kind of makes up for it without having items on Work. Or you can just throw in any value unit, such as like Elise is fine, or even a Vi. Even with no synergies, it's still pretty decent to have those two out because they have some sort of CC. Or you could throw in like a Caitlyn, for example, because you get sniper with Kog'Maw. Or maybe you might get lucky and throw in a Malzahar. You know you have 5 Automata, it's still kind of useful to have because Malzahars are a good unit. So it's kind of hard to play around it because you have +1 since you have Quickstriker in on your Kog'Maw, and Akali is kind of useless anyway, so this is fine. As long as you have some sort of value unit, this is okay to do. The good thing to know here is don't use Garen because you lose the Emissary synergy because you can only play it with 1 or 4. So even though Garen's a very powerful unit, you want your Emissary with Ambessa, so don't play Garen no matter what. And then for the easier version, if we have an Automata Emblem, then we can have that on Ambessa instead, and we keep our Akali in, and this will be the board. Pretty simple. As you get 6 Automata, this will power up your board very hard. Even though they nerfed 6 Automata this patch, it's still a really good synergy. And at level 9, you can just throw out a +1 unit like Mordekaiser or something, or even like the 6 cost units Warwick, Victor, or even Mel. Either one works. Really, really big thing to note here is if we have artifact items, like for example our rapid fire cannon, then you want to position Nocturne in the 2nd row or 3rd row, either one is fine, because if you have rapid fire cannon, it extends his range even further, and it grants him +1 hex range, so you might have to step up a little bit to auto attack here. So I would say 2nd row is better, but 3rd row is okay too, to safeguard him so he doesn't get hit just in case. But I prefer 2nd row, that's just my playstyle. Or if you have, for example, other range item, like for example, Sniper's Focus is fine, or even Fish and Bones is also fine. But the good thing to note about Fish and Bones is you kind of need to position him on the side, because if you position him in the middle, he keeps auto attacking randomly between the 2 units in front of him. So if you have him on the side, he only targets 1 unit. So these are the tips for the artifact items. The one thing I forgot to note about itemization is you don't need QSS on Fish and Bones or like items that gives you range, because QSS is more for a frontline item, so you can just get rid of the QSS and then just have the IE, and Bloodthirster is fine, or even Hodge for healing item. The reason why is because QSS is meant for more for like CC debuff if you're like a close range unit, and you don't need it as a range unit. So if you are playing range Nocturne, just take out QSS and then put other items is fine on him. For our augments, the augment prior order you want to take is emblem, like for example Quickstriker Crest. Items such as Portable Forge is the best one to take. Combat augments like Piercing Lotus or something like that, or Blazing Soul. And for your 3rd augment, most of the time you kind of want to get an Econ augment so you can hit level 8 or 9 fast. So the ones you want to auto click here is for like the 1st augment, Starring Knight is a very good starting augment, or even 2nd augment, so you can 3-star Nocturne quicker. To cap out the board, to not have Akali since she's a useless unit, and to finish off Quickstriker even faster at like level 6 or 7, having the Quickstriker crest is very powerful for that. And speaking of Quickstriker, Adrenaline Burst is a very good combat augment for Quickstriker units like Nocturne. And then like I mentioned earlier, Portable Forge is very good for your range items, so this is very powerful for that. Same with RD Factory, this allows you to have a chance to get a range item for Nocturne. If not, you could do other artifact items, which is great on him too. Mentorship is a good combat attack speed augment for Nocturne because he needs to hit more, so this is really good for that. Same with Blazing Soul, but the difference between the two is Blazing Soul gives you damage, so this is actually really good overall for Nocturne. Piercing Lotus gives you armor shred and magic resist shred, so this helps a lot with that. If you want to finish off 3 stars, if you don't have Starry Night, then you can do Hero Grab Bag to 3-star Nocturne easier, or Prismatic Tickets. And then good combat healing augments is like Overheal, Health as Wealth, or even Sated Spellweaver. For our anomalies, the ones you always want to prio is Nocturne, because he is the best unit for anomalies for this comp. And the ones you want to auto click automatically is if you don't have a range item, diving is very powerful to get to the backline quicker, and it gives you attack speed and a lot of omni-vamp. Invisibility is really good because it's like a permanent edge of night every 4 seconds, so you can take away aggro and he could just kill everything quicker. Last chance is if he dies, he can resurrect and gain a lot of attack speed and omni-vamp to clear out the board. support. Center of the Universe is okay. Personally, I don't really like it, but it's pretty decent DPS for Nocturne. Core of the Week allows Nocturne to get burst damage, and then personally, I don't really like it, but same thing like Center of the Universe, these two are not too bad if you see them. Legacy of Sarima allows Nocturne to stay alive longer, so it's a pretty decent anomaly. Titanic Strikes is one of my favorite anomalies on Nocturne because it makes this auto tag into AoE, so you do extra damage around everything. And Eagle Eye is very good if you have a ranged item because this augment allows you to extend your range, and if you're standing still for a certain amount of time, you gain even more damage on top of that. So it's really good for rapid fire cannon specifically. If you can't find any of these anomalies, any bruiser type anomalies, it's fine. Ones with like health and damage or like health and armor magic resist is okay. The playstyle we want to play most of the time is we want to play high tempo, meaning we want to win streak a lot to fast 6. Blue streak is kind of hard because you'll pretty much die quickly. Cause say for example you're around like 50 to 40 HP and you didn't hit Nocturne 3 yet, you're just gonna die immediately right there and then. So it's better to win streak so you have enough HP to roll for your Nocturne 3. And at stage 2-1 you wanna level to 4 so you can win streak early or save HP because you have more units on the board. At stage 2-3 always make around 10 gold. If you don't, you're gonna be poor for the rest of the game. If you have more intervals of like 14 gold or like 24 34, you can pre-level to 5 so you can have a level 5 shot because you have a chance to have a better shot odd when you come back from carousel round. If you didn't do this part, at stage 2-4, you can level to 5 instead. As long as you hit level 5 at stage 2-4 in the end, it doesn't really matter too much. At stage 2-3, always make intervals of 10 gold again, like 20, 30, 40 gold. If not, you'll be poor for the rest of the game. And the reason why you want to do that is because when you hit stage 3-2, you want to hit level 6 and roll for Nocturne level 2. And you want to roll down to like around, at least with 20 gold left. Ideally, you want to roll down to at least 32 gold left, but if you're like desperate, then you can roll down to at least 20 gold and then save up to 50 gold and then slow roll over time to pick up Nocturnes. If you're pretty close to 3-star Nocturne, then just roll all your gold if you have 2 or 3 copies left to 3-star him as soon as you can. Or like the other mentioning I said earlier in Team Builder, if you find Mbessa early, just hit 7 and then you can do this again. And then once you hit level 3 on Nocturne, you want to fast to 8 or 9 to finish the game. Basically about it. And that is it for my guide on the shredding machine Nocturne. If you have any questions or something you don't understand about, just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer to the best of my capabilities as fast as I can. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.